Parak HaMoicher Beis Kur, Daf Kuf Gimel, sponsored the Refuah Shlema of 4 Yael Bas Devora. We begin with the Mishnah. This Mishnah defines what is included and excluded in the sale of property. One who sells a Beis Kur offer, cultivable land, must be basically level. Crevices 10 tfachim deep or rocks 10 tfachim high are not included in the sale. However, if they are less than 10 deep or 10 high, it is part of the sale. Land cannot be perfectly level. If the seller stipulated ki Beis Kur offer, even if they are 10 high or 10 deep, it is a sale. He committed to that amount of land, but not to the quality of the terrain. The Gemara discusses this ruling in regard to the redemption of a consecrated field. One who consecrated an ancestral field large enough to plant a kor sorim can redeem it by paying according to the standard amount of 50 silver shkolim for the duration of Yovel, a sela upundion per year. However, crevices 10 deep or rocks 10 high are not included in the Beis Kur. The Gemara explains the crevices referred to are filled with water. Just as rock beds cannot be planted, so too crevices filled with water. If the cracks were cultivable, there is an apparent redundant term, sadeh, in a verse that includes ancestral fields smaller than a Beis Kur in the standard redemption fee. However, crevices and rocks less than 10 are referred to as cracks or lay of the land with no separate identity, subordinate to the field they occupy. The Gemara now discusses whether this ruling applies to purchase property as well. Rav Papa holds purchase property is different. One who purchases a Beis Kur expects a level property, can plow, seed, and harvest as one. The Mishnah's comparison of crevices to rocks teaches that even water-filled, if less than 10 tefachim deep, are purchased with the land. The Gemara now discusses the maximum amount of rock bed the buyer must accept. Rabbi Yitzchak holds base arba kabin, 2.2% of the field. The purchaser forgoes a reasonable amount. The Gemara defines the legal dispersal of this quantity throughout the field. Number 1, Rav Ukva Bar Chama holds it must be dispersed at least over an area of 5 kabin. Number 2, Rav Chia Bar Abba, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, holds it must be dispersed over the majority of the field. The Gemara is undecided if the majority is spread over the minority and the minority over the majority. The Gemara discusses cases where the rock beds are scattered over the majority of the field, however, in shapes difficult to cultivate. Number 1, if the rock's in the shape of a bracelet, it is difficult to cultivate in between the rocks and to move the plow circularly to plow the area within the circle. Number 2, if the rocks are arranged in an unbroken straight line of rock, it is even more difficult to cultivate. The plow has to be lifted to cultivate each furrow, and it cannot plow in a normal manner next to the line. Number 3, if the rocks are arranged like the horns of a bull, one cannot plow in a straight line. Number 4, if the rocks are arranged in zigzag lines, no section of the field is without rocks. The Gemara remains undecided about all these cases, whether the rocky area is included in the sale because it is cultivable, albeit with difficulty. Number 5, if an individual rock, even less than 10, stands outside, extending in or even within the field, but alongside the border, it is not subsidiary to the field. Only rocks not on the borders are subsidiary to the field. The Gemara is undecided if the rock is surrounded by soil on all 4 sides, but less than 3 tefachim from the border. Number 6, if the rock is not embedded, there is cultivable soil below or above the rock. The Gemara remains undecided if the rocky area is included in the sale. Now we move on to a new Mishnah. Seller stipulated, I am selling you a Beis Kur, surveyable by ropes. The buyer can deduct from the cost any amount less. Any more, the buyer must return it. However, if he stipulated more or less, there can be a discrepancy of a 2.2% more or less. If the discrepancy is greater, the buyer must purchase additional land up to 9 kavim in a field and a chetzi kav in a garden, so the seller is not stuck with a parcel too small to cultivate profitably. unless the seller prefers the extra land refunded. Once he is required to refund the excess, it includes even the 2.2%. If you're enjoying Daf and 5, please click on the link below, subscribe, and become a sponsor. Have a good Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.